Rookie draft season is well underway, and if you're someone who listens to a Dynasty-themed podcast, you're probably in at least one league. The draft goes 4, maybe 5, possibly even 6 rounds deep. Well, I've got Derek Brown from FantasyPros here today to do just that. Go very deep down the rookie draft pool to see those gems that you're going to want to draft in rounds 4, 5, and even 6. And even if your draft doesn't go that deep, these are the waiver wire gems to be looking out for right now. And that's next on Dynasty Compass. Welcome to Dynasty Compass. I am your host, Jeff Blaylock. Joining me today, the one and only DBro, Derek Brown from FantasyPros. So awesome to have you here with me today to talk about the really deep sleeper kinds of guys way down on draft boards, because I'm in some sicko Dynasty leagues where we have 5 and 6 round rookie drafts. So this is the show if you've got that kind of league, because DBro is going to be diving deep and telling us which gems we should be spending our 5th round draft capital on. DBro, thanks so much for coming, man. How you doing?
Oh, dude, I'm so glad we set this up. It's been a long time coming. I know we talked about it at Expo and stuff, and just trying to, honestly, this is more me than you as far as like getting my schedule to line up with life and kids and everything in between, dude. No, but we're gonna go deep on this class, and I don't know, man. Like, I'm a sicko. I love talking about all these deeper prospects, man. I think this is the meat and potatoes where you find the Jalen Cokers of the world and what have you. So,
well, before we get into it, why don't you let everybody know where you are, where they find you? Although, if you're watching this broadcast or listening to it on Apple or Spotify, your favorite platform, you probably know who DBro is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have found me, because I am a lot more obscure. But anyway, DBro, let them know where you are.
Hey, man, we're all just guys trying to be dudes out here. I'm obscure as well, my friend. But yeah, everything's over at FantasyPros. You can find me on pretty much any social platform at DBro_FFB. Look for the cartoon Abby. That's what you'll be seeing. If you're looking for me, no pictures of my face. The cartoon Abby does not age, although I do. So
I've been told many times I have a face for radio, so I hear you.
Same. I get two consistent comments. 1, I have radio face. 2, I have a punchable face. So it all just comes down to, I'm probably better in podcast format.
Well, let's just dive into it, because we got some depth to get to here really quickly. A lot of analysts, when they're looking at rookies, they kind of stop at around 35, 40, 50 at most, because that's where most drafts are going to end for dynasty managers or for redraft. But you go a lot deeper than that. I mean, what motivates you to really kind of get into the depths of rookies and look at guys who probably aren't going to be NFL draft picks and certainly not dynasty picks?
I mean, I just really love over the last 3 to 4 years, the deeper I've gotten into rookie evaluation and dynasty and things like that, I just love the due diligence of it. I love going through watching film. I love writing up players, and I love going deep and stuff like that, because we do get some guys that pop out of the weeds, like Jalen Cokers of the world and stuff, where, they come out of like small schools and they do some big things, or they're fantasy relevant, So the other thing about it is, like you're talking about, Jeff, like, people are in a number of leagues, and whether this is 14 teams, 16 team leagues, leagues where there are 5 and 6 round, or they have like just ginormous like rosters or taxi squads. And I feel like, one, you don't see a lot of content out there covering all these deeper players. 2, there are players that do pop out of the woodwork, and it's like everybody's like, oh, well, where did they come from? And it's like, well, if you're following a lot of people that do content on these players or deeper dives and stuff like that, then maybe you get ahead of the curve, because we all know that like dynasty, part of it is like, yes, hitting on your picks, making good trades, all that kind of stuff. It's also grinding the edges. Like, if you could turn in a guy where you pick him up off the waiver wire and he becomes anything out of that, and you flip that for a late, like a 3rd round pick, all of these small equity gains do add up, and they can make the difference for you on the short and long term in dynasty. And yeah, like, I got my top 100. It's out there live on FantasyPros.com. This is the third year in a row that I've done it. And so writing up 100 skill players. This is no defense, no offensive line, none of that stuff. It's all fantasy relevant. So it's all quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends.
Yeah, and I think that depth is really something. I mean, you've got to really sort of dig into it to find these guys, because the last thing you really want to have is to have somebody appear out of nowhere and like he was all there. I mean, the tape is there, the stats are there, everything is there. It's just you have to look for that. So it's something I really appreciate that you do, because some of us don't have the time to get that deep, but need to know these things anyway. But, when you're looking at these guys, I mean, obviously when you're down in the 4th and 5th and 6th rounds of Dynasty rookie drafts, there's no safe floor. I mean, the floor is zero for these guys. And the ceiling for a number of them is also zero. So what is it that, are you looking for that sets some of these guys apart from some of these other guys? Are there any particular like skill trait, schools, anything in particular that strikes you as, this is one of those guys I want to put a little check mark next to and keep my eye on?
It goes back to, I think, the total prospect makeup, like whether they pop from an analytics standpoint or they pop from film, or it's both, and looking at all those different parts or pieces, So I'd say, or if we're going cross positionally, like we're just talking about wide receivers and stuff like that, it's really the film and the analytics and how you're dicing that up or quantifying that. If it's tight ends, it's both those things as well as high-end athleticism, because, high-end outcomes and high-end athleticism are joined at the hip for tight ends more than any other. They're more correlated than any other position in fantasy. So I think it's looking at those things and seeing if anybody pops off the page. You know what I mean? Like, and this isn't just like, but that's one of the reasons why I was so high on somebody like a Puka Nacua, who was a 5th round pick. And everybody gets so married to draft capital and that telling the tale, but they also forget that there are the Stephon Diggs of the world. There are the Adam Thielens of the world. There are the Jalen Cokers of the world. There are the Puka Nacuas of the world, where they did not get drafted early. Terry McLaurin, another guy, was like round 4 later. Like a lot of guys, like if you look at the total makeup of the NFL, yes, most of our fantasy hits, most of the top end producers were drafted in round 1, round 2, and could we have seen it coming? Sure. There's also a lot of guys that have had really, really good careers that wasn't the case. If we stack it all up. So, I mean, I think like looking at all of this stuff and trying to mishmash it all together into the best, you're trying to paint the best picture you can of a player's skill sets, whether it's the blend of film and analytics. And if they pop from one or both of those, then it's somebody that I'm going to be very interested in.
Yeah, I've said a number of times on this show and in life generally that one of the keys to Dynasty is to find that first-round talent with 3rd and 4th-round picks, because that is very much,
value,
like little edges earlier. This is a big edge if you can do something like that. If you can find the Puka Nacua, and there may only be 1 or 2 of these a year. Some years there may not be any, but if you can find that one every couple of years, you're going to be light years ahead of the rest of your league that didn't spend those picks well. And that's also one of the reasons that I love to just get in trades. I love to get 3rd and 4th round picks and even 5th round picks in drafts that are that deep, because it's an additional shot at getting that guy, of finding this year's Puka Nacua or this year's Jalen Coker or this year's Tony Romo or whoever it might happen to be. So, when you're looking at, a number of players that are kind of all around the same, they all have the same stat lines, they all kind of have the same tape, they all have the same general set of strengths and not strengths, because we're talking about people down the board here. Is there something that just you really say, this is the tie-breaking thing, it's going to be this one and not these other 4, even though I've got 5 guys that are basically the cookie cutters of each other right here?
I think that's kind of when you get into the nitty-gritty of, like, if you're stacking up a lot of different players and you're saying from a talent perspective or the analytics, they all kind of pop, then that kind of goes back to, landing spots and who has the clearest path to playing time. I think if we're all splitting hairs and, all things are equal, then it comes down to who is going to have the easiest chance or the greatest possibility, if everything kind of rolls up Yahtzee for them, to get on the field. Because if they can't get on the field, then they can't show an NFL team that they deserve to outkick the draft capital. They can't show an NFL team that, look, I was a UDFA, man, but y'all screwed up. The whole NFL screwed up. I should have gone in the 3rd round. Because if they can't get out there and play, they'll never be able to, because what draft capital does is it buys you opportunities.
Right.
It buys you consistent opportunities to fall in your face. And then the team says, okay, we'll give you another shot. Give you another shot. We'll give you another shot. On the flip side of that is the guys that go in round 4, round 5, UDFAs, they have to consistently outkick the doubters. Like they have to consistently show up and say, look, you got these other guys you drafted in first and second round. I'm not playing all these fools over multiple years or multiple weeks. So like they have to do that. And if they don't have the playing time, like even pathway, they'll never even get the shot to even try to do that. So they're just going to languish at the bottom of a depth chart because they didn't get draft capital and respect by the NFL draft consortium of the teams.
Or they end up on the practice squad because they couldn't even do like special teams and at least get on the 53-man roster. Because you can't get on the 53-man roster, there's no hope. And then you also
Luka and Jalen Coker, like if they didn't have a chance to play a path to playing time, both in their rookie seasons, would both of them still be like wide receiver 5 or 6 on an NFL depth chart or cut by now? It's possible,
maybe, but yeah, I mean that's the thing is that you didn't get the draft capital this year. As a 5th or 6th round NFL pick or a UDFA, but you're not only fending off the guys with higher draft capital this year, you're fending off the guys they're going to draft next year and the year after that, because this is a constant struggle of needing to prove yourself against people that they are going to spend higher draft capital on. The trick is really to say, okay, instead of using your 2nd round pick on a wide receiver this year, I'm that wide receiver. Go get that linebacker or that offensive lineman that we really need. And that to me is kind of tough. But sometimes it just takes dominoes falling. I mean, I think the best story we had from just that we could all see from last year was like Bill Krosky-Merritt, where about 100 things happened in front of him, and he ended up being the guy for at least a few weeks. Is there like a certain number of dominoes that have to fall before you're just like, yeah, this is just not going to happen? There's really no way.
I mean, you're looking at guys, and some of this is not like. It comes down to me, like when you look at the strength of the depth chart in front of them, like if they're wide receiver 7, but wide receiver, or they're like, say they're wide receiver 8 on the official depth chart, but after the top 3 guys, wide receiver 4 through 6 is a laundry list of just camp bodies or guys that where you're like, ugh, like that's a pile of gross, man. To where you're like, okay. The barrier to hop a large swath of players on a depth chart, like basically the barrier to play is not that high. That bar is not set that high versus a guy that's like, say he lands on a team that just invested two picks in that draft with wide receivers, or there are 2 veterans and they drafted 2 wide receivers. So it's kind of like they're running 4 deep to begin with. And there's a guy left over from last year that also kind of like showed some flashes. So at best, he's this player could get to wide receiver 5 or 6 on a depth chart. It's really like you're looking at the constitution of all these depth charts. And it's like, okay, if there's just like this just chunk of mid where you're like, okay, half these guys, could they get cut in training camp, or they are just camp bodies, or they're holdovers, like it's a new OC and they're just there to kind of teach the scheme and stuff like that. You're trying to read all these different tea leaves to where it's like, okay, could this guy hop a bunch of players very, very quickly because that talent level and that barrier is not that high. It's not that high a bar to clear.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, say, something like Las Vegas Raiders, where that's
exactly the depth chart I was thinking of. There is a guy we're gonna talk about later that could make some waves. We shall see.
Well, why don't we just jump right on into him, because it's on our minds. Yep. Las Vegas was the team I was thinking of that you could stand out and be wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 1 if you have a really impressive camp. So. Let's move on to the wide receivers and just start with that particular one that we're thinking of.
Chase Roberts, man, UDFA out of BYU, and I'm not telling you like that there aren't some concerns or holes in his game, but again, we're discussing a player. Yeah, he ran a 4.6 40-yard dash. That's not amazing, but it's also not a death nail. Like we've seen guys that run in the 4.6s and have very productive careers. There are some things to like in his analytical profile, though. Like he also did have 2.35 and 2.60 yards per route run over the last 2 years, which amongst FBS wide receivers, at least 50 targets, puts him at 61st and 31st. He's a pretty good route runner, can kind of sink and explode, especially for a guy that's 6'3". And then, again, when we go back to the depth chart, Jeff, like Trey Tucker, not amazing. Jack Besh didn't do anything in his rookie season. Dante Thornton, you could say that. So if we kind of like go down the list of like, okay, that's the top 4 wide receivers, not counting Brock Bowers, on this depth chart. So basically talking about what I just laid out here. If wide receiver 4 through 7 or 8 is a crap ton of bleh, could Chase Roberts hop all of them? And I'm going to name off these names, Jeff, and you tell me if this is the laundry list of guys that Chase Roberts cannot hop, okay? Malik Benson, Darkear Young, Shedrick Jackson, Philip Dorsett. Yes, he's still in the NFL. Wow. Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice. EJ Williams Jr., Jonathan Brady. I don't even know who the hell that is. Yeah. Could he hop all those guys and be the wide receiver 4 when we walk out of camp? He could be. When
you're looking at Las Vegas, because, of course, you've got Brock Bowers, so that's the one. No one's leaping over Brock Bowers anytime soon. So does Chase Roberts, does he operate in that same general area of the field, or is he more on the outside? Because if he's in the same area of the field, even if he gets to wide receiver 4, that's a problem. But if he plays a different kind of role, that may be much more clear for him.
I would say he's first of all, he's a boundary wide receiver. He's a big, long striding, like more of a possession receiver. So I think if you're looking at like, if he is the arbitrage of, okay, Jack Besh did not fire in his rookie season.
Right.
If Jack Besh stumbles out the gate this year, Chase Roberts is the guy you would say, okay, looking at the archetypes of wide receivers they have to fill out their starting 3. Jalen Naylor's not going anywhere. He will be starting. Right. I think Trey Tucker also is starting. So it's kind of like you're really playing, can Chase Roberts play the role that maybe they're pigeonholing Jack Besh into, and could he play it better considering Besh did nothing in his rookie season? And I think it's possible, man. Like Chase Roberts also stood out with a 65.7% contested catch rate over the last 2 years. He's got good body control, a big catch radius. The real thing for him is that, like, drops have been a problem. He has to clean that up. He has to continue to get better as a route runner. But there are a lot of raw tools there for Chase Roberts where you're like, okay, like if you run him like 60% like outside, put him as a big slot on some of this stuff, like he can sink and explode really well for his size. So if Besh doesn't hit the ground running, or if Besh, like maybe he's a starter coming out of camp, but by week 4, he's not doing anything and Chase Roberts is nipping at his heels, you could see a changing in the guard.
But you're talking about things like, route running, like not being the best at at drops, for example, but yet he has a high contested catch rate. So there's a lot to work with there. Some of that, is all coachable, but some of course, the high contested catch rate is because he can't get open. Is that why he's got contested catches? Or perhaps his quarterback was wild? I think you've got to kind of look into some of those sorts of things. Yeah, the context of it, but the fact that he can still do that, even if he's in traffic, is still really good. If he can increase his separation, that's even better. Who are some of the other guys here, wide receivers, you are looking at in either late 3rd or at least the 4th round in rookie drafts and beyond? Anybody in particular that you're targeting?
There's a bunch of guys, man. And I think when we're looking at this just swath of players, like the other thing about it is ADP is all over the map in rookie drafts right now. Like you'll see guys go anywhere from like round 2 to round 4. It's really get your guy season. So some of these guys, like I might mention here, people could say, like the first one I'm going to mention here, people could say, well, you were round 2 of my rookie draft. Like, what the hell are you talking about? There's been plenty of like go see other leagues and stuff where certain guys will fall to round 4. And Bryce Lance is the first name that I'm going to bring up here because I have seen him go in round 2 of rookie drafts. I've selected him in round 2 of rookie drafts myself. And there's other leagues where I'm in. He's gone, like I've been able to draft him at the back end of like round 3. Some I've seen him drop to round 4. And I don't understand it. Like I don't understand it when he's available that late because I'm very, very interested. And I understand everybody's going to like knock him for coming out of a small school. I don't care about that because when you see guys go to small schools, what do we want to see, Jeff? We want to see guys that look like a man amongst boys. They look
Right.
like they're a high school guy or a college guy running around like versus junior high guys.
Yep.
And Bryce Lance did that last year. North Dakota State, like amongst all FBS and FCS wide receivers, so a large consortium of guys, at least 50 targets, sixth in yards per route run, eighth in yards per reception. Like there's like it's the blinding speed, it's the physical like traits with him. Like I think he's Christian Watson 2.0, but if we get better health, as well as it's the runway, man. Like coming out of FCS, he got 4th round draft capital. People might snub their nose at that, but again, we could go through all these NFL depth charts of guys that have popped that have gone in the 3rd and 4th round on day 3, and then you look at the constitution of the Saints depth chart. It's like, okay, sure, they drafted Jordan Tyson, they got Chris Olave. What do they got behind them? A whole lot of nothing. Devon Vele, no, you can miss me with that. Didn't do anything last year. Is it going to do anything this year? Bryce Lance going to be starting in 3 wide receiver sets over him. Chris Olave is a free agent after this year. Like the Saints basically just set it up so if they decide to like, say they decide to trade him middle of the season, maybe they decide to let him walk and get a comp pick. Like he's had his own laundry list of concussions and injuries and what have you. If they don't bring him back, like Bryce Lance is going to be their wide receiver 3 this year. If Jordan Tyson's injury issues follow him to the NFL, Bryce Lance might be their wide receiver 2. Hell, let's play out the fever dream, Jeff. Mm-hmm. If we're at week 7 and Chris Olave is down with an injury and Jordan Tyson is down with an injury, Bryce Lance could be operating as their damn wide receiver 1 this year.
Right.
And you could get him in the 3rd and 4th round of rookie drafts. I do not understand it, but before I just start tossing more names, what are your thoughts about Bryce Lance?
I think there's a couple things you look at. Like you're looking at the dominoes. You're looking, first of all, at how many people does he have to leap over? And secondly, what role does he play if somebody gets hurt? Because we know that injuries do happen in this league. It's an unfortunate thing. We don't wish for those for anybody, whether we have their backup or not. That's not the point. But whose role does he play? And then you start looking at the contract situations. And that is another thing you just brought up with Olave, that this is a team that is in cap hell. They are finally paying that reckoning for all those years of somehow managing to push everything off into a future year. So you're going to need a bunch of guys playing on rookie contracts. They could perhaps bring Olave back, but they're probably not going to be able to. And if the season starts going south, they might move him sooner rather than later, and rather get something for him than nothing. And then you've got opportunities for someone like Bryce Lance to pop right back up in there. So that he checks those kinds of boxes for me. He's got the skills. There's not a whole lot of traffic in front of him. If he can't beat out Bub Means, well, fine. But, Bub Means also can't stay healthy, and so that may not be an issue. So you look at that, you look at the roles, you look at the contract situation. What's the path look like for a player like this? And I think you are spot on that he's got one of the better opportunities. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That doesn't mean someone else is not going to leapfrog him. We can't know those kinds of things, but we can at least see what the runways and the possibilities or the dominoes look like and decide, does this kid have an easier, nothing's easy, but a not as difficult path to relevance as somebody else? I think the answer is yes. I think he's a great option.
I mean, look at the rest of the depth chart around him. Like they drafted Barryon Brown. He's going to be just a returner. They're not going to count on him for high-end like wide receiver snaps. Mason Tipton has already been given snaps in previous years and didn't do anything with him. Same thing with Bub Means. Jalen Polk, yes, that Jalen Polk is on this depth chart.
Polk.
He's not done anything in the NFL. Same thing with Kevin Austin Jr., Trey Palmer, Ronnie Bell. All these guys, we have had proof of concept of them not doing anything. So Bryce Lance is going to be a starter from day one. And then we'll get into some other guys that can earn their way up the depth chart. Like I am going to draft Kevin Coleman Jr. in as many spots as I possibly freaking can, because the Miami Dolphins depth chart is wide open.
Yeah.
Like I do not care what it looks like right now. Like people are like, oh, well, Malik Washington. I'm like, okay, what did Malik Washington do even when he was giving run as a starter last year? He did nothing, man. So I like Malik coming out as a guy in this conversation. But then he got starter snaps for a long time and didn't do anything with him. He didn't command targets. He wasn't efficient with his work. And so I'm not worried about like Kevin Coleman Jr. having a high bar to clear to beat him out for a starting lineup spot. And Kevin Coleman Jr. was a player because he is a slot wide receiver, these guys don't go high in the NFL draft usually, unless there's pedigree insane production. Teams look at them as like, fine, you played 90% at slot in college, but we think that you can definitely get open on the outside, a la JSN. Then a lot of these guys don't get a lot of respect with draft capital. And Kevin Coleman Jr., that was definitively the case. He didn't test as an otherworldly athlete, but dude, you turn on the film, kid could play. Like, he had over 2.2 yards per route run in each of the last 2 collegiate seasons. He was 17th and 5th in missed tackles forced. He also adds, my comp for him is 2025 Wan'Dale Robinson, where yes, he's a slot confined player. Yes, he's an underneath guy. He can make some things happen with the ball in his hands, but he also gives you an element of verticality from the slot. Like, because he plays bigger than his size, and the route running is definitely underrated here, Jeff. Like, again, doesn't drop the ball. He had a 3.4% drop rate in college, and I go back to playing bigger than his size at the catch point. You don't see a lot of slot wide receivers that leave college with a 53.7% contested catch rate. So a player that, is he going to be like probably 70% or higher in the slot? Sure. But I think he can earn his way up this depth chart. And you look at also where this team is going from a play calling standpoint, their personnel and stuff like that. We're talking about Green Bay South. You're talking about Bobby Slowick. You're talking about, okay, we all remember Tank Dell's rookie season, okay? We all do. Okay, Bobby Slowick was there for that.
Yep.
We all do remember Jayden Reed, his rookie season, and how what he did earlier in his career, not so much lately. But my whole point of this is, you're looking at scheme, you're looking at depth chart, you're looking at, okay, all these guys are going to get thrown into the same soup, and who floats to the top and who can sit here and play out. I think Kevin Coleman Jr. can do that, and I'm not going to be shocked if he is basically South Beach Jayden Reed.
Yeah, playing bigger than the role, playing bigger, taller than the position is really critical, I think, for slot receivers, especially as the league is evolving into more 12 and 13 personnel. I don't know that Miami's going to be able to do that. They've got Dulcich and Kekmeric, Traore, and then 4 guys I've never heard of on the depth chart there for tight end. So that may not be an option for them to do a lot of 12 and 13. So that means the slot role is open, and that is going to be, I think, something important for Malik Willis to be able to operate from and use, given the way that offense is built. It's the way they're going to have to move the ball. Coleman, again, just a great shot to take. And remember, we're not talking about spending your first-round rookie pick on this guy. We are talking about a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick.
A fourth-round pick.
Yeah.
Like, he's going consistently in that fourth-round range. Yeah. Hell, in some shower leagues, he's going to fall out of the rookie draft. So you'll be able to get him on waiver unless people are listening to this show.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And if your draft is over or your draft's not as deep as this, these are still guys you get off the waiver wire who are going to beat out some of the people who are taken in the second and third rounds of drafts, and other guys who are taking up valuable space on your bench right now. Mm-hmm. You talk in the evaluations, and all of these evaluations are on the Fantasy Pros website, but you also highlight things. We've talked about some of them, contested catch rate, drop issues. You also highlight things like their abilities to accelerate or decelerate in their routes. It's something that I love the term. You call it TikTok footwork. Who do you kind of see there as the guys who, and you may have already mentioned some of them, but who are the accelerators and decelerators that you really like? And I think TikTok footwork is a negative, so I think we want to avoid guys who have that.
I mean, really, when I get into like discussing players and their film evaluations with like, and for anybody that's not familiar, when I'm talking about it, like it's all these TikTok-y routes. Basically, that's like all these social media clips of like guys on practice fields with no shirts on, and they're running routes versus air, and it's all this at the line of scrimmage, and they're basically just running in place for like 10 seconds, and then they dart into a direction, and you're like, well, that's not going to play in the NFL. Like, you can't spend 10 seconds on the damn line trying to juke the guy out like you're playing freeze tag. Like, there are so many parts of NFL, like, passing concepts got to be at your spot, like versus zone coverage, pacing in your routes, where if you spend 10 seconds on the damn line trying to get off the line to the corner, like you're already behind the play. So you're not going to be where you're supposed to be in the play design or in the reads or the progression. So we got problems here, man, much less like half of that crap doesn't play in the NFL.
Yeah.
you have to be precise with your footwork and the efficiency in your footwork, where it's like, fine, if you can 2 to 3 steps to change directions versus a 1-step cut. Like, all of these little things add up to your ability to separate and create separation, and whether that's early or late separation and the ability to run routes. And the other thing that kind of gets lost in the conversation of the NFL, like the transition from college to the NFL, so much of college nowadays is playing off coverage. So like cornerbacks sitting 3 and 5 yards off of wide receivers, and these guys running hitch routes where people are like, man, look, he's just getting open religiously. Well, when the cornerback's playing 5 yards off the line and you're running a 3-yard hitch and you just turn around, that's not a route win. Like, that's not like, that's not going to translate to the NFL, because corners aren't playing that far off like it is in college, and the spacing of college fields versus the NFL.
Right.
It's just not translatable. So fine. Okay. Like, that all goes back to like knowing what the hell you're actually watching too. And it's like some of these things translate, and plus like knowing how to set a corner up, whether that's you're threatening the outside shoulder. What are you doing versus said coverage? What are you doing versus if a corner is neutral versus you, or inside or outside leverage, and the route you're running, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're getting open, all these different parts of like the greater conversation of route running and playing the wide receiver position versus like, oh, he's playing 5 yards off, 3-yard hitch. Like he just turned stop routes. He's in a bunch formation, and he's in a stacked formation, and the wide receiver in front of him is drawing the coverage, and it's a scheme touch, so he's running across underneath. This is the bigger conversation of why people have missed on Tennessee wide receivers in years and stuff like that, where it's these guys are not earning separation. It is being gifted to them based off of the scheme, of the coverage scheme that they are facing, or the offensive scheme they are living in, and it's creating the separation for them. Versus give me the guys where it's just line up on the line of scrimmage and route dudes up. If you could do that, it's kind of like tackle breaking and stuff for running backs. It's like, if you could create yards for yourself, that translates, dude.
Right.
Like, you're not beholden to an OC to scheme you up because you can't get open for your damn self.
Yeah, yardage is one of the only things that actually translates directly from one level to the other. The field is the same length, the same number of yards for first down. And even if you are finding yourself fortunate enough in the NFL to have a corner that's 5 yards off of you and you run that hitch route, that safety is coming really fast. And if your back's to him, you're not going to see him, and that's going to be really, really ugly. Those of us watching live in the stadium or on Red Zone could see that coming from a mile away, but you will not be able to. But yeah, you bring up in Tennessee, I think does have that reputation. It's richly earned that those players are not asked to do a lot because they've got other sacrificial players who do some of that for them. So, we weren't going to talk about top guys, but I imagine that Brazel is in that bucket for you as someone you're probably not doing a lot of picking up in those earlier rounds. So, or are you?
Actually,
is he different?
Actually, I am. He does not fit the usual Tennessee wide receiver. He's not in that phylum of guys. Chris Brazel actually has legit route running chops for his size, especially, and what he was asked to do at Tennessee, and especially if you go back to even yesteryear when he was at Tulane. So Chris Brazel breaks the mold of those Tennessee wide receivers, but other guys of previous classes, like where I was like, look, because the other thing is you're trying to give context with the film of people are like, oh, well, this guy was a perimeter wide receiver, but what does his perimeter wide receiver snaps look like?
Right.
Sure, he can line up on the perimeter, and technically he is a perimeter wide receiver, but if you're seeing him in bunch formations and stuff, and he's running the underneath crosser, and the other guys are running clear outs, or it's like, sail dagger, and like one guy is running the go, and he's getting the underneath stuff. It's like he's not creating a lot of this stuff for himself. I mean, a guy perfect talk about this was a guy I already mentioned his name earlier, where I was like, Jalen Polk might have perimeter wide receiver on attached to his name. He was not a perimeter wide receiver at Washington. It was all schemed up BS. He was the guy in the stack formation. He wasn't the lead guy. He was the underneath guy. and a lot of this stuff was made for him. So if they were like New England took him and they were like, oh, we're going to put you on the outside. We're going to ask you to win on the line of scrimmage. Okay. Good luck, buddy. Not going to happen. Same thing for Xavier Legette when he came out as a prospect. All these crossers. And they were like, hey, you're big, you're athletic. Go run away from dudes. We think you can do that. Cool. And then Carolina takes him. They're like, you're big, you're physical. We're going to just throw you into an X role and see how you go. He didn't do anything because he was pigeonholed in a role that he wasn't accustomed to because it's not what he was asked to do in college. And he was poorly suited to be tossed into the deep end, man. So, it comes back to like the constitution of giving context to film and analytics and trying to paint within the numbers and make the most complete picture of what actually happens or an actual skill set for these wide receivers versus what the narrative is or the echo chamber talk of is, or the numbers, like you just take them at face value.
Who else in the class here in these now moving back down to our lower rounds, who else do you see is actually having that, have the ability, they can run the routes, they have the ability to create separation, they could be that X, or they can be the guy in the slot, or perhaps they're versatile and can do a number of different things. Who else do you have your eye on here in rounds 4 or 5 or beyond in rookie drafts?
I'll bring up 2 other names here. CJ Daniels, who landed with the Rams. If anybody goes out there, just search his name. You're going to find a thread from me that has some of the sickest body control and catch point. Like I sent this to somebody the other day, and I just described it as enjoy this catch point porn, because you're really going to love this, because he doesn't have the highest end ability as far as a route runner and a separator, but this dude is just nasty at the freaking catch point. And so body control is also one of those things for wide receivers. Like, you can't teach it. Like, either they have the athleticism and the play strength to win at the catch point consistently and contort their bodies and stuff. Now, is it a problem if you cannot separate and you have to live in that realm consistently, like an Auden Tate? Sure. Yeah. Like, that's not great, because you can't separate and things. And CJ Daniels is not a high-end separator, and there are holes in his analytical profile. But going into a spot like the Rams, where McVay and company, they love these catch point guys. Like, I mean, look at Jordan Whittington. I mean, you can even toss Puka Nacua in this. Like, he has some of the sickest catch point, body control at the catch point, going back to BYU, that you could go back and research. And so CJ Daniels, like, is he a guy that like is probably better served as like becoming a big slot player? Yes. Like, I mean, you're looking at the very, very bottom of the rung dollar store, poor man's version of a Puka that you can get. But like, could he become a possession wide receiver in the NFL? If because I think there are physical limitations with him as far as like raw speed, things of that nature that are going to hold him back. Yeah. But if the scheme in LA can do him some more favors, could he be a guy that like he pops? Possibly. And the last guy I'll bring up here, man, is he was kind of like my pre-draft darling. The NFL didn't see it the way that I saw it based off of his athleticism. Like, Brendan Thompson got all the puff and praise in the process of being like the smaller, diminutive, like speed receiver in this class. I really loved Eric Rivers, and I loved Eric Rivers because also the fact of it is that he was so underrated as a route runner. Like, you go to Georgia Tech and his numbers aren't amazing like last year, like, but he surpassed the 2.0 yards per route run threshold. You go back to the previous year at FIU, he was 8th in the entire like country in yards per route run if you stack all the receivers up at least 50 targets. So again, a guy that does pop if you go a little bit deeper for the numbers. And his film definitely matches up, man. Like, the guy had over an 80th percentile vertical jump, ran a 4.3 freaking 40. Nobody talks about him. He did fall out of the draft. He got a UDFA contract to the Buccaneers. That is an incredibly messy and muddy kind of depth chart. Like, and also another one of my love list guys, and Ted Hurst is there, and he's fighting for playing time. But Eric Rivers, again, like, if we're talking about deeper leagues and a guy that you can get and stash after the rookie draft and put him on a taxi squad, I'm betting on the talent here for Eric Rivers, because I think outside of the size, now he's in that 5'10", 170-ish kind of range, but he played perimeter wide receiver throughout the entirety of college, and he shows not only the nuance in his routes, but the ability to set up corners that I think he truly can translate and continue to play on the perimeter in the NFL.
Yeah. Georgia Tech, too, is one of those offenses that I always put an asterisk by any stats that come out of there because it is not a conventional kind of pro style or even college style offense. Stanford is another one. Navy is another one.
Just a lot of game manager stuff too. So
yeah, you just kind of have to think about in the context of that system, what was he doing? And you highlighted the yards per route run. To get that kind of a number on a team that doesn't throw very much is I think really a sign that somebody is good. And yeah, his size is not right, but he's played against some of the harder and tougher competition and the outside. And I don't know, thrived is probably not the right word, but certainly succeeded. And he's definitely the kind of guy that I think can land, maybe not initially on the 53-man roster, but can stay around and get there. And for a 5th or 6th round rookie pick, there's definitely worse you could do than someone like that or someone like CJ Daniels. My only thing with Daniels on the Rams, I of course love that McVay is going to be able to get the most out of him. I'm more confident in Sean McVay handling a player than just about anybody. It's just that Sean has now become the heavy tight end guy. So with a lot of 12, 13, if there ever was a 5 tight end set in the NFL, if we haven't seen one yet, we'll probably see one this year from the Rams. That to me is the only sort of thing that's really in the way of that role. You've got Puka playing something like that, and while there's not really a lot of bodies in between Daniels and the starting lineup, there may not be enough sets for him to really spend a lot of time out there.
Well, and before we move on, I do want to correct myself. I was wrong when I referenced I need to put more respect on Eric Rivers. So in 2024, I got the stat wrong. He was actually 8th in receiving yards amongst all FBS wide receivers. And amongst FBS wide receivers, at least 50 targets, he was actually 2nd in yards per route run.
That was his FIU days?
FIU days. Yep, 2024.
Yep. And again, don't dismiss that because it's FIU. I mean, he was dominant.
Like,
you want to see somebody dominant.
Dude.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah. And so, I think you can look at – I think the natural inclination is to look at that stat line at FIU, look at what he did at Georgia Tech, and say, oh, he couldn't manage it against the bigger competition. No, Georgia Tech's offense is weird. He played a great role there for that offense. It just the stats don't necessarily reflect that. So just because the stats aren't as good on paper from at the bigger level than at the smaller level doesn't mean that the player couldn't handle the bigger level. Let's move on to tight end, position that apparently blocking tight end was much more valuable than catching tight end in this year's draft because there was a whole gaggle of them that went much sooner than those of us in fantasy would have preferred because we like the catching ones and not the blocking ones. But what are you looking for in a tight end that comes in these later draft rounds that makes you want to roster him, even if he's going to sit for a year or two? And we've become quite spoiled in the last few years with tight ends who hit instantly. None of these guys are going to hit instantly, and they may not hit for several years. So what are the traits that you're really looking for?
Again, it goes back to constitution of the film and the analytical profile as well as the athleticism. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like the high-end athleticism is definitely one, you have to clear the benchmarks. And for me, any tight end that runs slower than anywhere in the 4.7, 40 range, if you're a 4.8, coffin nail. I can name the tight ends in the last 10 to 15 years on one hand that have had fantasy football relevance that have ran a 4.8 or slower. It's Isaiah Likely and Kyle Rudolph, end of list, period. So if you run a 4.8 or slower, you're automatically off my board. No interest, none, nah, not at all. And so to the other side of that coin, if you are hyper athletic, okay, I'm interested. Whether it's a deep league guy, whether a guy that maybe I didn't love his analytical profile, but if you could figure it out in the NFL, and we're talking about like, especially guys like one of the names you brought up earlier, Seydou Traore in Miami, like he's a move tight end, stupid athleticism. There are high end moments, but there's a lot left to clean up on his film and stuff. And if Greg Dulcich doesn't resign because he's in a contract year, Traore is the guy that like, he's the move. He's the pass catching guy. Will Cameron is the guy he's going to be your inline 12 personnel blocking tight end. And so Trayer is going to basically that they drafted him of if he can sit behind Dulcich for a year and he can improve, maybe he's our starting tight end in that pass catching move tight end role for next year. So for me, it goes back to for tight end specifically, high end athleticism equals high end possible outcomes. And if you don't have the high end athleticism, or at least you're clearing the benchmark, and this draft class was littered, Jeff, with guys in that 4.6 to 4.7 range where if all of the things like line up for them, could we see like a K-Dot and kind of run out? Like there was a crap ton of these guys, man, like where there was like Joe Royer, Jack Injuries, all these other guys where it was like, could I see it? Is it possible? Sure. But there's also a crap ton of guys that we're going to discuss here where they ran 4.4. They ran 4.5. They show the like legit seam stretching ability and body control in the air. And maybe this doesn't line up with their analytics, but I'm like, holy crap, I'm drafting a crap ton of these guys.
Yeah. In Miami, I think it's an interesting sort of situation because they, like New Orleans, to me, are in kind of a cap hell situation. And so they're going to have to rely on these younger, cheaper contracts for a while. And so that, to me, sets up an avenue toward potential playing time. And the role here, the key word, of course, is potential. I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen. But that's the sort of thing to look for when you're a dynasty manager. You're looking at some of these deep guys is, where's the pathway, and is it at least plausible that they could get there? And someone like, I think Troy is there. And then also, I mean, the rise of 12 and 13 personnel, this is sort of the flip side of what we were just talking about with LA and the wide receivers. Does that create more opportunity for some of these pass catching tight ends who might otherwise not have the body or not have the blocking chops to be on a 53-man roster? Is there more room for them now because of this evolution?
There is, and what I would say also is with the guys that can also block, but they are the pass catching component, or if they can at least get to a point where right now they're either average blockers or they can at least become average blockers, then maybe we see maybe they're not just the inline, like the 12 personnel like receiving option. Maybe they grow into, because the pass catching upside is higher with them because of the athleticism. If they're blocking, it at least be passable. Like not a guy you're asking to sit here and be the puller or the lead blocker on a pin pull run. Somebody like that. Or they're not asked to set the edge. They're basically just asked to kind of get in the way, hold your blade of grass. Yep. We're not asking you to be a people mover. We're just asking you to not get the quarterback murdered or not be destroying a run play because you suck and you get blown out of your damn cleats. So if they can at least like clear that bar, maybe these guys that have the pass catching component could usurp the guy that they drafted to be that blocker and could be the every down guy. And then the other guy that was drafted to mainly block is only coming in when there is like 13 and 12 personnel, and the other guy is staying out there for a 70 or 80% route share, and they could hop them.
Yeah. Who are the tight ends that you really are? You said there's a number of them, and I mean, to me, this is one of the gems of this class. Generally, are the tight ends.
I love the tight ends here, man.
These are the guys that I am certainly targeting in later rounds. I am not.
Yes.
I'm abandoning receiver here pretty quickly. Some of the guys you mentioned, I am looking for if I can find them, but I do love some of these tight ends. So let's get into it, man. Who are you after?
Dude, I love these tight ends, and the other thing about it is I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like I feel like I'm like I get into these drafts and I'm like, why in the ever-loving hell are you letting Oscar Delp and Eli Raridon fall to the 3rd and 4th round of drafts? Like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Like honestly, Jeff, like what the ever-loving hell are we doing here? Like everybody's like, oh well, Oscar Delp, like the counting stats weren't great. Okay, do you also understand the Georgia quarterback play was absolute and total dog water?
Right.
And he wasn't a part of the offense. That doesn't mean, oh, by the way, he played the entire damn year with a hairline fracture in his foot.
Yeah.
And yet, he ran a 4.49 40. He has a 96 percentile vertical jump, a 96 percentile broad jump, as well as Oscar Delp over the last 2 years was 10th and 23rd in yak per reception, as well as we're talking about the high-end athleticism, and the guy that we're talking about is like, oh, he's the pass-catching component. Oh, wait, Oscar Delp last year played 74% of his snaps as an inline tight end.
Yeah.
So he wasn't just like this big slot guy. And we're not like talking about Harold Fannons of the world or Jaheim Bells and all these other kind of tweener guys. This guy played in line. He can actually block. Oh, he's also a high-end athlete. Oh, also with the Saints, you have Juwan Johnson, who basically has only garnered targets when everybody else fell apart in front of him. When Taysom Hill was hurt, they didn't have a wide receiver 2 last year. So he was the de facto number 2 in the passing attack. That doesn't mean anything, man. So they go out and they draft Oscar Delp, and anybody that's like familiar with this, just because you get round 3 or round 4 capital, that's honestly the sweet spot for tight ends in the NFL draft. Go and look at all your favorite high-end elite tight ends. 90% of them were not drafted in round 1 or round 2. Tucker Kraft, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, just to name a few. Like, those guys went in the middle rounds of the NFL draft. So saying he got 3rd round capital doesn't mean anything to me. That's a plus to me.
Yep.
So going back to it, like, Oscar Delp was underutilized at Georgia. He is a mismatch weapon. He is the high upside shot you take in rookie drafts right now. And I'm not going to be surprised if we flip over the cards in a few years, Jeff, and Oscar Delp ends up becoming like the dollar store version of, I'm not going to evoke the name George Kittle, but I'm also going to go very high up the realm here. If we turn over the cards in 2 or 3 years and Oscar Delp is basically the Saints version of a Colston Loveland, I'm not going to be surprised, man. I'm really not. And I know I'm putting a lot of praise on his name, but this guy he can legitimately freaking play. And before what are your thoughts on Delp before I get into like these other 2 guys that I'm going to wax poetic about?
I could not have been happier at his landing spot, really. I mean, he's got that's talent.
Kellen Moore, baby!
Exactly, with Kellen Moore. You know, I mean, Kellen Moore may be a head coach somewhere else a year from now, and it may not matter in that regard, but I can only see what I could see. And I see Kellen Moore, and I see a very versatile, very athletic tight end whose presence on the field doesn't automatically mean, hey, we're throwing the ball or, hey, we're running the ball like a lot of other tight ends are. You have Juwan Johnson, who is fine, but probably too expensive for, again, a team that's in a cap problem.
We're also not worried about Noah Fant at this point in his career. Nobody should be worried about Noah Fant. Nobody.
No one should be. Noah Fant shouldn't be on any rosters right now unless you just, like a paperweight, because he's definitely not there. And then you look sort of behind them. I don't know who any of these other people are. There's opportunity there for him. And then, the other guy you mentioned in this opening, I don't know if he's the next one you're going to go to, but Raridon, because he's one of the ones that he's the one I'm going after. He is the one I am going after. I've got him everywhere in round 3. Yeah.
Same. I'm taking him in the back end of round 2 because I don't care, man.
Yeah.
Like, if we just zoom out here, oh God, I'm getting all hot and bothered here. All right. If we just zoom out here, dude, and we took the name away from it and we said, you can draft the starting tight end for the New England Patriots tied to Drake May for the next 4 years. He'll be the starting tight end for the New England Patriots in 2027. You can draft him in round 3 or round 4 of rookie drafts. And people still say, nah, I'd rather go take Nick Singleton. I'd rather go take this guy. I'd rather go. What are we doing here? What in the ever-loving hell are we doing here when you can draft the starting tight end for Drake May. And people are going to let him fall to the 3rd and 4th round of rookie drafts? Hunter Henry is a free agent after this year. Austin Hooper is gone. Raridon will be their tight end 2 automatically on their depth chart this season. And then we get into the analytical profile, Jeff. First of all, he ran a 4.62 40-yard dash. He had an 81st percentile vertical jump, an 88th percentile broad jump. Athleticism box, check. Then you look at his deployment with Notre Dame last year, 13% go ball rate, 5.2% posts. He led here. This was in my 50 stats article, and I still feel like people have missed the boat on this. Eli Raridon led all FBS tight ends last year, Jeff, in deep receiving yards. amongst all FBS tight ends with at least 20 targets. Eli Raridon, 11th in yards per route run. And yet, he's falling to the third or fourth round of rookie drafts. Jeff, what the hell are we doing?
We're snapping him up. That's what we're doing.
I have him everywhere, man. Everywhere. I love him. And the last guy I'll bring up here is, again, another deep pull that has just ridiculous athleticism. He comes out of a smaller school. But again, if we take the name out of it, and I tell you that you can draft this tight end in the fourth round of your rookie drafts, or you can get him afterwards. This tight end, before we even get to the name and the landing spot and what have you, was 27th and 4th over the last 2 years in yak per reception. He ran a 4.57 40-yard dash. He has a 9.2 RAS score. Over the last 2 years, a 56.2% contested catch rate. He had a 72nd percentile shuttle. And he got fourth-round capital. He goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Why do people dismiss and don't even care about Matthew Hibner?
Yeah.
I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. Mark Andrews, what are we getting at this point of his career? Charlie Kohler, gone. Isaiah Likely, gone.
Already gone.
Like all those guys, he's going to be, he's going to fight to be probably their tight end 3, maybe their tight end 2. They do have Durham Smythe there, so he's basically the guy that's going to help teach Declan Doyle's system. So he's more of like the on-field coach than he is like a long-term like thorn in the side. Like Matthew Hibner could legitimately be the heir apparent to Mark Andrews, and nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
Again, we're spoiled by some of these instant success tight ends. It used to be that it took 2 or 3 years. This is a situation where you want your tight end. It's a very complicated position to play anyway, and you get to the NFL, it gets even more complicated. And because you need them to do all sorts of things and recognize and change on a dime what they're doing. And you've got him behind Mark Andrews, who is a great dude and is going to be a good teacher for him. Smythe, as you mentioned, is also kind of that. And if it's fine, if it takes 2 or 3 years for him to get to that position, but then you've got somebody who might be Baltimore's tight end for the next 9 years. And reliably, at least a tight end 2, maybe a tight end 1. You see what we're getting from Andrews. When Andrews falls into the end zone, we're getting a lot from him. When he doesn't fall in the end zone, we're not getting much. But that's true of just about every tight end out there who's not one of the elite guys. I mean, tight end is a position where anybody in any given week can be anywhere from tight end 1 to tight end 70 because that's just the nature of the
touchdowns
position. Touchdowns, where they are, all those kinds of things. So the athleticism is the one thing that doesn't change whether you're getting 12 fantasy points a game or 2, because if you're athletic, you stay out on the field and you can fend off. Hibner can fend off other tight ends who would be coming later. Wide receivers, you're always going to draft a wide receiver in the NFL. Very rarely does a team not at least draft one wide receiver and take a shot at it. A lot of teams aren't going to draft tight ends if they think they've got the one that they need. They may draft a blocking tight end to see if they can do that.
Which they already drafted that guy.
Or see if they can convert into fullbacks.
Cuevas. Yeah, they already drafted that guy for Baltimore. So that's already, box checked. One more, and this is a super, super deep guy. And I'm talking like end of your taxi squad, 14-teamer. Like, if you just need a bench stash, a guy that really I got to late in the process, I've got to talk about Jaren Kanak. And if nobody has heard this name, I don't blame you. I didn't know who he was until we got done with the NFL draft, and I was going 100 players deep, and I was looking at all these different guys. 7th round draft capital for the Tennessee Titans. Again, you're talking about. I know. I don't have facts with this, but I could tell you because I have followed his drafting strategy for enough years. This was a guy that Brian Daboll was probably pounding. This screams Brian Daboll pick. He loves these guys where at the tight end position, they're hyper athletic and they got that dog in him. And Jaren Kanak. So like everybody's the backstory on, and I don't even know if you're familiar with Jaren Kanak as of recording this, Jeff. Or have you heard this name before?
I have. I had not heard of him until I had to do Dynasty projections for him a couple of months before the draft, and then I got familiar with him. So yeah, he is a name that I was curious to see what was going to happen to him.
Yep.
And we know now what's happened to him, and he is exactly with the coach that he needs to be with in Dayball. I mean, that is
absolutely,
perfect,
man. And
perfect.
And for everybody, the backstory for Kanak. So he was a collegiate linebacker throughout college. He did not transfer and to playing tight end until his final season of college at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And in that season, we're discussing a player who had just transferred to playing tight end, totally new position. He's raw at this position. He's a little bit undersized at 6'2", but this dude plays like a damn linebacker. He has that dog in him, man.
Yeah.
He is a bulldog after the freaking catch. Last year, he ranked 32nd in yards per route run, 12th in missed tackles forced per PFF. He had an 8.4 RAS, a 4.52 40-yard dash, a 90th percentile vertical jump, and an 86th percentile shuttle. So again, the athleticism is there. We're talking about a team like they got Daniel Bellinger, who they just signed, who again is another Dayball guy, and Gunnar Helm at the top of this depth chart.
Yep.
So it's not like it's overwhelmingly like he's sitting behind an elite tight end or a guy with like a crap ton of starting experience who's been really damn good. Right. The chances that Kanak pans out and he becomes something in the NFL, they're not high. No. But are the parts or pieces there to where you can squint and you can see it, as well as it lines up with the analytics and the film and the athleticism? Absolutely.
Yeah, and Tennessee is one of those kinds of roles that the offense is there for you to take if you want it. I mean, I'm high on Helm. I'm hopeful for him, but I'm realistic. I can see him. Bellinger is another Dayball guy. He's going to play his role there. Kylan Granson is a placeholder, but who also has a role to play. And then the other two guys on here, David Martin Robinson and Joel Wilson. I apologize to their parents. I have no idea who either of those guys are. I'm sure they're great kids, but if y'all are listening, your kids are wonderful. I love them. I have no idea who they are though, so apologize for that. So opportunity, but this is one of those other lessons that look at who the coach is, especially a new coaching staff coming in. They're going to get their guys. They're not going to be drafting people to fit an old model. They're going to fit the new model. This is exactly the kind of guy that Brian Daboll is going to pick up, and presumably he's going to have at least a little bit of a leash here, at least long enough to give Kanak an opportunity to make the team. And he may be the practice squad guy for a year, and that's still okay. I mean, that's what taxi squad spots are for, especially in these really deep leagues. This is a guy who, even if he is swept aside for the year, if he hangs with this, he's that bulldog. He's the guy who plays, the Brock Bowers type in the practice squad and the scrimmages. He's going to get a shot at some point. It's definitely worth taking on there. Yep. Well, let's switch over from positions that we've been really excited and geeking on to positions that we're not very excited about and not geeking on. That would be running back. The NFL gave us a very clear indication as to how this year's running back class was valued, and that is very, very little. But yet, day three backs and UDFAs will crack lineups here and there when the dominoes fall the right way. Any of those kind of guys that you are eyeing this year when everyone takes your tight ends and you can't pick the guys we were just talking about?
There's a few different guys. I mean, like I'll shout out Katron Allen here only because the Washington Commanders have a litany of uninspiring or one-year guys. Yeah. Bill, what happens with him? Does he get lost in the running back tidal wave this year? It's also damning, like they went out and they just added a crap ton of bodies, So Katron Allen, like, I'm not overwhelmed by the player and the prospect, but you kind of know what you're getting with him. It's like, if you need 4 yards, he can get you 4 yards, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Like, really just a volume compiler. Could he be like the early down guy, or could he be their starting running back, this year? I could see it. The other guy I'll highlight here, two more names. It's Seth McGowan, because the DJ Giddens got kind of put on a shelf last year, didn't do anything. I think the RB2 role for the Colts is definitely up in the air. McGowan's an older prospect. So, again, a guy like if he doesn't fire this year, you probably just feel good about cutting bait with him. And Jonathan Taylor, it's not like we haven't seen injury issues for him, and the volume's been high over the last few years. So McGowan could be a guy that, like, if Taylor misses time, then McGowan is going to walk into like a 15-touch role, considering if he wins that RB2 spot, if Taylor misses any games. I'll shout out Eli Heidenreich only because he's a running back, or he's listed as a running back. He will not remain a running back. I want to be very, very clear about that. And, so he will transition to wide receiver, but you're taking him in your rookie drafts right now to running back. I do not see him staying at running back. If anybody watched any of his film from Navy, as well as I do, he did not play traditional running back. Right. When he was given handoffs, it was either basically like motion plays, and he was basically treated as a wide receiver in motion and give it a handoff, or it was toss plays to get him on the perimeter. So not a lot of conventional running back usage, but I think Eli Heidenreich could like transition to slot wide receiver and play it pretty damn well. So another guy I'll shout out here. I don't know if we want to talk about guys we're avoiding in that same phylum.
Yeah, I think so, because it's particularly in running back, there's going to be some of them.
I mean, two guys that at the top of my list, I'm not drafting anywhere. People are talking themselves into it. Damon Claiborne and Adam Randall. I have no interest. Like Damon Claiborne, people can talk themselves into it, dude. But like for me, it comes back to if you can break tackles and you can create yards for yourself, those are skills that translate agnostic of situation. Right. And everybody goes to Claiborne, but it's like he's got one elite trait, and that's speed. Like it's 4.37 speed, but if he cannot break tackles at a high level, again, we're talking about a running back that was 122nd and 94th in yards to contact per attempt for all of that big play speed. Yeah, he was 40th in breakaway rate last year, but 130th the year before, 95th and 93rd in elusive rating over the last 2 years. So like Damon Claiborne, I don't care. Like let people go chase him. I'm not chasing him. And Adam Randall, I feel like, has been a litmus test for rookie process and rookie evaluation this whole entire time, where people are like, oh, he's a converted wide receiver. And I'm like, I don't care, because he runs like a converted wide receiver, and that's not a good thing, dude. Right. He's a big guy. He runs tall. The contact balance is not there. And everybody talks about the testing, but much like Rachaad White of previous years, or CJ Prosise, or all these other guys that test really well when it's like the stopwatches come out and the shorts are on, but they don't translate that to tackle breaking. Like if I took the name of Adam Randall out of it and I said, oh, he's not a wide receiver convert, and everybody didn't attach Tyrone Tracy and Antonio Gibson to his damn name, like, Jeff, would you be interested in a running back last year that was 113th in yards after contact per attempt, 126th in breakaway rate, 103rd in elusive rating, and also 85th in yards per route run? Would you be interested in that running back, Jeff?
No, because
exactly.
If you can't, if you're in the hundreds of one, you better be in the teens in the other, and he's not. He's in the 80s.
And he's not, man.
He's not a catcher, and he's not a runner. And I think
the owner drafted into Baltimore. Like, what does that tell you? The owner drafted him.
Yeah.
The scouting team wasn't on that. So the Steve Bisciotti. Okay, go ahead. Have fun, y'all.
Yeah, Baltimore is sliding into that non-seriousness franchise area that's currently occupied by Arizona, Cleveland, and the Jets. There's some company coming with that. I think, Rachaad White, to me, is not necessarily the player comp, but I think the role comp here. I mean, you've got a guy who is going to take the handoff, and if you need 2 yards, that's what he's going to get, because he's going to get hit and he's going to fall down. And if that's 2 yards, then he got it. If it's not, it's not. So maybe if you're in a point per first down league, he has a little bit more value than elsewhere. But with you, not with that. Claiborne, I'm glad he's fast, man. But you have to get through people to be fast. It doesn't matter if you run right into the defensive lineman. It doesn't really matter that you're fast. You're going to fall down either way.
That's my big problem with Claiborne. It's like when you get the undersized running back that's built like the undersized speed back
Yeah.
then when you are that size, I need to see that you have some really good short area chops. Like you were twitchy as hell. You're going to create things in a phone booth. Claiborne is a linear runner, dude. He turns like a damn tiny tugboat. Like, so he's not making guys miss in the second level like you would expect from a guy where it's like, oh, he's got 4.37 speed. And then you see him in the second level and you're like, he just runs into guys or he tries to run around them. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So like his metrics scream to you when you just look at it on the analytics on paper of like, yeah, when he's got like you could drive a school bus through the damn hole. Yeah, he'll break off a long run because he can run away from dudes. When he has to like solve problems in traffic or he can't use that linear speed, dude's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Yeah, if it takes the size hole that I could get the first down out of, that there's a problem with this guy.
Same.
But I've seen both Claiborne and Randall. I've seen them both taken, sometimes both in the same draft, immediately in front of me taking Eli Raridon in the third round.
No.
So
I'm taking tight ends and wide receivers. You can miss me with these running backs that will be, honestly, their depth chart spot will probably be replaced by another guy in next year's draft class. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, if not just a free agent signing or someone just coming along, they pluck off someone else's practice squad, and that's the other sort of risk is that and the other sort of possibility is even someone on a practice squad could end up somewhere else very quickly and change some of the dynamics at the bottom of the depth chart. Do we even need to bother with quarterback? Is there anybody that you would take a shot on here? Assuming it's Superflex, not in one QB.
Yeah, there's two guys in Superflex. Cole Payton deserves a shout out. I think there is a run out for him where he could be the long-term successor to Jalen Hurts. You have Andy Dalton and Tanner McKee are both free agents after this year. Yeah. And Cole Payton was a guy that I loved. Like, I do not understand why the Steelers were stupid enough to draft Drew Allar over Cole Payton in round 3. It just screamed idiocy to me, but have fun. I'm sorry, Steelers fans, but that was a horrible draft pick. Absolutely god-awful. But Cole Payton has the talent, man. He just needs the time and the seasoning and the reps with the jumping competition, the 1-year lane as a starter and stuff like that. But it's the rushing upside. It's the fact that he is an underrated passer. People can miss me with all their stupid Taysom Hill and Tim Tebow comparisons. Cole Payton is immensely better as a passer than both those guys. And the other guy I'll shout out here for deeper Superflex leagues and taxi squats is Haynes King. Bryce Young has not been good in the NFL for most of his tenure in the NFL. And I'm not telling you Haynes King is going to go in there and compete for the starting job this year. But if you were to tell me Bryce Young falls on his face yet again with a much more competent set of guys around him in Carolina, and this team has quietly gotten a crap ton better over the last 2 years, Bryce Young, he has limitations to his game. There is a hard cap ceiling because of his size, because of his inability to see the middle of the field. Dude, Haynes King has the athleticism. He has the rushing upside. We talked about Georgia Tech's offense and stuff like that. It was incredibly buttoned up where he wasn't asked to do a whole lot.
Right.
Are there some accuracy wax and wanes with Haynes King and some arm strength like limitations with him? Sure, but you're talking about can he still throw the deep ball? Yes. Is he incredibly accurate and a really good touch passer? And when he's asked and put in those, when he is put in the situation of go make plays out of script and create something, he can do it. So also they gave him $250,000 in guaranteed money for a UDFA.
Yeah.
Haynes King could be their QB3 this year. And if anything happens to Bryce Young and Haynes King balls out in the preseason and he competes and stuff like that, Kenny Pickett is not good. We've seen that, man. So Haynes King could be the Carolina Panthers QB2 this year. When it's all said and done, he has the rushing upside. I'm higher on him than a lot of other people. Pre-draft wise, I think he was my QB7. And again, that's not saying much with this QB class, but I would rather go get Haynes King after the rookie draft off of waivers and stash him on a taxi squad than spending a final round pick on someone like a Taylor Green 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I King is one of those guys I had my eye on as well because, again, it's an offense that doesn't work like a normal offense, but it's not because Haynes King can't run a normal offense.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a lot of the traits that I think make Bryce Young work in the NFL, including inaccuracy issues. And so you're kind of looking at what would be a plug and play kind of situation if your lead quarterback goes down. Who do you put in there? Kenny Pickett does not work anything like Bryce Young in my book. He's not a good fit there. I think he just was the guy who's available. He's got a bunch
just straight not good too.
But he is one of those. He to me is one of those guys in Superflex that you hang on to because the dude gets some starts, and starts matter, especially later in the season and when your quarterbacks are hurt or bye weeks. But otherwise, he's not anything to write home about. In terms of Payton, I love that pick for Philadelphia. I hate it being a guy who has a lot of shares of Tanner McKee because that means that's probably the end of Tanner.
Yeah, he's gone after this year.
But to me, Payton is again a match. If Jalen Hurts went down in the middle of a game, Cole Payton, not Sean Payton, Cole Payton could pick that offense up and run it right from the spot.
He might be their QB2 in 2027, Jeff.
Next year, yeah. So yeah. And even if he doesn't ever become the QB1, that doesn't matter. We're talking Superflex, and we are talking about having somebody that you can bring in if you need to later in a season if something happens to Jalen Hurts, and quarterbacks get hurt. Everybody gets hurt.
My last little point on Haynes King, and I said this in my pre-draft write-up. It's still live on the site. Like it was my comp for him. And there's a wide range of comps for him. Like, could I see him being the next Easton Stick? Sure, could happen. If there was a Brock Purdy type to emerge from this class, Haynes King is my bet.
Yep. Yeah, very smart between the ears, which is the one thing that you really can't coach anymore. If you don't have it, you're not going to have it. Mm-hmm. Well, DBro, we have covered a lot of ground today. Bunch of people, at least down a dozen and a half folks by the count. If I just look down at the little names I was scratching out as we were going, who would be your 3 to 5 favorite guys? I mean, let's just kind of set up a third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round pick. So one in each sort of position. Give me 2 in rounds 5 and 6 because that's what we're here for, deep guys. So it gives you about 6 folks to highlight here, starting with kind of the backside of round 3, even the front side of round 3. Who's your round 3 guy?
Yeah, I'd say my round 3 guys are the guys we've already talked. Round 3 and round 4 guys are the guys we've talked about. It's Bryce Lance, it's Kevin Coleman Jr., Oscar Delp, Eli Raridon, and Matthew Hibner. Rounds 5 and beyond, and guys you can get after waivers, or at least after the rookie draft. CJ Daniels, Chase Roberts, and Eric Rivers. And if you wanted to throw Cole Payton, will probably go undrafted in some leagues.
Yeah.
Throw Cole Payton. Cole Payton's even a good stash in one QB because in one QB, if you're going to make that, they have to have rushing upside. Right. So whether it's Cole Payton and Haynes King are the other names that I'll give here.
At the very least, if you've got Jalen Hurts and you've got a bench spot, get Cole Payton because that's
absolutely
a plug-and-play replacement 1-for-1. Not talent-wise, but scheme-wise. That I think works really well. And then, anybody else just sort of in the if all miracles happen, this is the guy that I at least want to have my eye on from the waiver wire. Now we're not even talking about drafting him in the 6th round. This is just somebody really deep that your eyeballs on. If the right dominoes work, this is someone you're going to go get off the waiver wire, probably for nothing because nobody else is going to be paying attention to him.
I'll go back to Eric Rivers. I loved him pre-draft. He was kind of my guy pre-draft and stuff, and the NFL screws this up constantly. Like if you were to tell me we're living in a world for the Buccaneers that because Chris Godwin gets hurt again or what have you, plus he's he's a lot older than I think a lot of people realize right now at this point in his career. Injuries have piled up. If Chris Godwin, if the Buccaneers move on from him after this year, we kind of also see when Tez Johnson is and isn't. He's just kind of a role player. Size is a problem for him. He's not a player that I think can play on the perimeter and stuff like that. So really more slot confined, gimmicky stuff like that. If we were looking at a world where after this year, somewhere in 2027, say we're at week 7, and the Buccaneers are starting a trio of Emeka Egbuka, Ted Hurst, and Eric Rivers, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that may very well be the direction that they end up having to go. As you say, Chris Godwin's like 75 years old, but still plays a little younger than that. Mm-hmm. And then Mike Evans is gone, and I imagine Kanak
and Jalen McMillan. They keep drafting wide receivers, although people are like, "Oh no, Jalen McMillan," and I'm like, "Yeah, Tampa Bay believes in him so much that last year with a full wide receiver room and McMillan playing really, really well, they still went out and drafted Emeka Egbuka
and Tez
Johnson. Then after this year, and then after this year, they lose Mike Evans, and they still go out and they draft Ted Hurst, and they sign Eric Rivers, and you're like, okay, well, is this also like the continual drafting of wide receivers and adding to that room? Sure, you need the depth. Mm-hmm. Is that also kind of a slight indictment on Jalen McMillan too? And nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah, there's the difference between, because I mentioned earlier, most teams are going to draft a wide receiver because that's just what most teams do. There's a difference between a depth gadgety kind of piece that you add in the 6th and 7th round and a guy that is a direct replacement for somebody you've already got on the roster. That is not just an injury. You don't bring in an injury 4th, 5th wide receiver to back up your 3rd receiver. You bring them in to replace your 3rd receiver. So that's certainly something to keep in mind there. DBro, this has been a lot of fun. Run a little long, but that's okay. Hopefully you had the time to do that. I know that I did. I could talk to you for another 6 hours.
I kind of assumed it was going to happen because I talked too damn much, Jeff. I just kind of assumed it. When I saw this show sheet, I was like, oh, boy, we're going on hour plus.
We skipped over some of it, too, but I think we got everything. And certainly you talked about all the guys. I think you want to highlight.
We got the gist.
Yeah, I got the gist of it. If something missing here, I mean, you've got 100 player profiles up on FantasyPros, and those are ever rotating around as they come back up. So folks can find there. So I already said it, FantasyPros, but where else can folks find you? Just remind everybody again where they can find your lovely face or the cartoon avatar that replaces it.
They want to see the radio face. I mean, all my content's at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. You can find me on all the YouTube channels. We got the new Dynasty channel that we launched, the Tailgate, where we're not talking any fantasy. It is all just NFL takes, 24/7, 365. So, whether you're listening to the main feed, you're listening to the Tailgate, which we have the podcast up, and the YouTube channel, or the Dynasty feed, which you just launched, the Fantasy Pros Dynasty channel. And we're also, I'll tease this out, be launching a few more YouTube channels this year for Fantasy Pros. You could probably catch me at any one of those, and all my content is found at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros.
All right. Well, thanks again so much, DBro, for hanging out with me today. And thank you for watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. If you have not yet, you've enjoyed what you've been hearing, you're watching on YouTube, click that little bell, click the like, leave a comment. I answer all of them personally. Give me a good 5-star rating over on Apple and leave a review there. That's one of the best things you can do to help this show grow. And the other best thing you can do to help the show grow is tune back again next week. We have another outstanding guest and another great episode of Dynasty Compass.